Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. This is the brother Yakanan from the GMS Houston camp, and this is a quick lesson going into the false balance that has been set up under Esau Edom, who has rulership of the earth right now. So Esau Edom being the wicked, he's going to do wickedly. He's going to he's going to cause the earth, to mourn, whether it be through his ideologies, whether it be how he rules the earth through his spraying chemicals in the air, into the water, into the food, poisoning your minds, not just with, you know, what you see every day, with the whoredoms that you see, with the abominations that you see every day, but economically, this man is the hammer of the earth. He's oppressing you in all ways. Anything this devil sees, he turns into a weapon of oppression. So this is I had two scriptures here. I put in false balance, and this is Proverbs 11 and verse 1. It says, a false balance is abomination to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And in the old world, how money should be is by weight. So this is why the scriptures mention, balance, a balance, a scale, things like that, because a true money or the shekel, and money and wealth aren't just, having dollars and whatnot. It's having land, it's having livestock, it's having even slaves, and it goes on. It's a true wealth. And so money, it goes by weight. So what do you weigh out? The shekels, the gold. You weigh out gold, and when you're buying something, you're weighing out gold to the equivalent of what you're buying. So and just a few years ago, not even 100 years ago, this country was on what was called the gold standard. So you would receive, a dollar, and that dollar was worth however much gold in relation to it. It was just a paper mark. Like this here is worth, this $1 bill or whatever is worth such and such amount of gold. Things like that. But today, the dollar isn't even backed by anything. It's backed by your belief that the dollar is worth something, which is really, hey, that's an abomination, because it's false. The dollar isn't worth anything. But again, Proverbs 11 and verse 1, a false balance is abomination to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, but a just weight is his delight. So the wicked, they're going to be off. They're going to be false balance. Have a false balance. They're going to get over on you by any means. But just showing the monetary system, this is not balanced. So Proverbs 20 and 23, diverse weights are an abomination. And this is two times it's saying this is an abomination to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Dealing unjustly. Let's look at this word for abomination. H8441, 144, call it. The Y-ba. The Y-ba. It says a disgusting thing, abomination, abominable, in the ritual sense of unclean foods, idols, mixed marriages, which is in ethical sense of wickedness. So this is an ethical thing. It's disgusting to the Most High. Ethically, having, diverse weights. Let's look at that, diverse weights. It says H68 Aban. Okay, so it's not. It put both of those together. So I'll Lord willing, I'll come back to that or look at it, in my own time. Since diverse weights. Matter of fact, let me pull that up and see if I can get that in the Bible. Proverbs 20:23. Because it makes it unjust. Oh, because what you can do with the monetary system, especially since it's not real, you can impose this on people. If you got the power, you can impose this and have them working for nothing. Proverbs 20:23 and NIV, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, detests differing weights, and dishonest scales do not please him. Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, NLT, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, detests double standards. He is not pleased by dishonest scales. Let me see where else. The Amplified, differing weights are detestable and offensive to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and fraudulent scales are not good. Where else is it? GNT, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai hates people who use dishonest scales and weights. God. So it's an abomination. The Lord hates that. So I got a quick video. I'm just going to play it. If it'll play.
Western countries have come to Africa for centuries to rob Africa of its resources. They should be admitting what they've done. Some are rich of the resources they took from Africa. They never thought of helping Africa to develop.
I was just trying to get that watermark off the screen.
Western countries have come to Africa for centuries to rob Africa of its resources. They should be admitting what they've done. Some are rich because of the resources they took from Africa. They never thought of helping Africa to develop. They subjugated Africa. They took the political power, economic power, and then made us, therefore, socially, to have no power at all. We had to fight to liberate ourselves. They were never here to help. They were here to rob. After decolonization, they continued to do so. They could no longer use political power. They influenced it indirectly, but they held on to the economic levers of these countries. They were dominating, they were benefiting, they were doing nothing to help us. They created banks that were instruments of subjugating us. They would say, for an example, to the IMF, when the IMF will say, my country is in trouble, can you help? It will put conditions that will put you in a worse situation than before. So it was not helping.
Right. So you saw the video. This was the president of South Africa, back in, I guess, 2018, what it says in the video. But he mentions the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. And here I got it pulled up. I got a couple of tabs going into the IMF, so I'm just going to run through those. It says the International Monetary Fund was established in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference by 44 countries aiming to prevent economic instability like the Great Depression, overseeing a fixed exchange rate system, Bretton Woods, where currencies pegged to the US dollar tied to gold. So this is where the US dollar became the world, reserve currency pretty much. And after the system collapsed in the early 70s, the IMF shifted to managing balance of payments crises and providing loans with policy conditions, structural adjustments to members facing economic difficulties, evolving into a key player in global finances through the Cold War and era of globalization. So this is just a quick backup, just a background information. It says founding in 1944 through 45, created at Bretton Woods by delegates and the apostles. They go into this a lot, and so we should all know it, including Keynes and White, to foster monetary, which they go into it more in depth. This is just a surface level. All I'm going into says to foster monetary cooperation and trade, officially starting operations in 45. The Bretton Woods era, 1945 to 71, supervised fixed exchange rates. The dollar pegged to gold at $35 an ounce, which if you look at how much the gold is worth now, it's way past that, which they're not even using that as a standard anymore. It says lending to members with payment deficits. It says collapse of Bretton Woods. It says the U.S. ended the dollar convertibility to gold, ending the fixed exchange rate system and forcing IMF to adapt. So it's no longer on that gold standard. It's fiat now. Matter of fact, I have that. So the IMF focused on surveillance, crisis management, and lending to countries facing balance of payment issues, often requiring economic reforms, structural adjustment. I'm going to jump down to the modern role. Modern role continues to provide financial assistance, surveillance, and technical support, responding to crises in the Asian financial crisis and global economic shifts with increased members, 191 countries. I believe it started with 44. That's almost all the countries in the world. I think, pretty sure, I think there's 195, either 195 or 97 countries, which that's a majority of the countries of the world, in the IMF. So, and evolving policy approaches. So let's go to this next one. When did gold standard stop being in use? The U.S. entered the gold standard in stages, first removing the right of citizens to convert paper money into gold in 1933, which that was almost 10 years before Bretton Woods, or before the IMF was created, before the Bretton Woods Agreement. This is during the Great Depression. They ended that. You can no longer convert your gold into paper dollars. It says international convertibility for foreign governments was formally terminated by President Nixon on August 15th, 1971, called the Nixon shock, effectively transitioning the global economy into a fiat currency system, which fiat means so let it be, or their belief in it. So that ended. So now the currency is just what you believe it is. The world of make-a-believe. This is there's another tab. The Google has been real helpful lately with the AI, I guess. But if you know what to ask or whatever like that, it used to be you had to go and search Google and click on different websites, and now the overview helps you, give you a summarized thing, and then it has here where you can click links if you want to go to search further. It says the international, I put in IMF history in Africa. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, history in Africa began in the early 1960s, intensifying in the late 1970s with structural adjustment programs that mandated austerity measures, privatizations, and historically created significant debt, poverty, and reduced sovereignty, which is what the man in the video that I played was talking about. Like, they were not here. We asked it for help, but they were really not here for help, which is also a part of the curses. Like, hey, you shall go to your enemy for the one of all things, and you're only going to be oppressed. And I'm not even saying that guy's a Jake, but this is how the oppressor works. The whole world is suffering under this devil. But the Israelites suffering the hardest because we're at the bottom of the bottom. While historically African countries have had high recurring and sometimes dependency-driven usage of IMF, they have historically accounted for less than 10% of total IMF lending volume from 1952 to 2023. So even though they've been, oppressed and depend on them or whatnot, they make up a very small percentage. But I guarantee what the IMF and all these different countries that take their resources get in return is far more You know, the value of the raw resources that are in Africa and what they trade is far more valuable than the debt that they have, if that makes sense. But because they're constrained to do this, they're forced to sell at a lower rate. They're forced to do what their oppressors tell them. So they're not getting the true value. Like they got diamond mines, raw materials, a cobalt, all kinds of things that these other nations want and need, but they're not getting the true value of it. So it's like going, how do you say? Like they're really getting over. I just put it like that. This is a decolonization or key historical phases, decolonization and early engagement. The IMF's active role began with decolonization, creating an African department in 1961. Initial loans were for balance of payment issues with Egypt, Morocco, and Ghana being the first to sign standby arrangements. The debt crisis and structural adjustments in the 1970s and 80s. Following the 1970s oil shocks and rising debt, the IMF, in conjunction with the World Bank, implemented SAPs, the Structural Adjustment Programs, often referred to as the Washington Consensus. These programs demanded harsh austerity, selling state assets, freezing wages, and cutting subsidies, which led to major socio-economic upheavals, commonly characterized as a disastrous period of rising inequality. So basically, it destroyed, countries. It destroyed economies. And here it is, they were supposed to help. But hey, these things are happening. You'll see Edomites saying, "Oh, socio-economic factors. This is why you can't get it together." Yeah, like you came and you destroyed our economy. How are we supposed to rebuild from this? How are we supposed to, recover? But anyway, that's another thing. The pride of Esau is another thing to be studied. But shifting roles in current context of 2000 through 26, debate over impact. Critics argue the IMF has perpetuated a cycle of debt for decades, leaving many African nations with high debt to GDP ratios, often spending more on debt servicing than health or education. Right. So you're spending more trying to pay your debt off, which you're probably never going to pay off. And then everything else is all your money is going to that. So you don't have time to fix up anything. You don't have time to fix up your house. Here it is. You're paying your just for example, like you're paying for your mortgage, you're paying things around your house. Now your pipes start leaking, your floor is breaking through, the ceiling is rotting through, but you can't fix any of that stuff because you got to pay the bank, because you got to pay other people, because these things are sapping all your stuff. You got to choose between, if I don't pay them, I'm going to lose all this stuff, or eating, things like that. But just for, an example in your life, it says reform and reevaluation. Following intense criticism, the IMF has shifted to focus on poverty reduction, debt relief, and recently along aiding with, which all that stuff, they do that to save face. They're not trying to help you. Modern challenges. By 2026, many African nations continue to grapple with high debt from both IMF and private non-Paris clubs creditors, which I'm gonna have to look that up, alongside seeking new financial technologies. So that's pretty much it for that. But going into that pretty much hit it. So I'm gonna just get back to the scriptures. So just a quick overview, how this devil runs, because this isn't just a random thing. This is in the scriptures. This is part of Esau's system, which a Yahweh Bashim Yahushai gave Esau Edom, the wicked, the so-called white man, the earth. And he's just not, his blessing is the sword, but hey, this devil turns everything into a weapon. So this monetary system, that's a weapon. You know, the food system, that's a weapon. You know, the things that you watch, your movies, your entertainment, that's a weapon. Everything has been weaponized by Esau Edom. So continuing, this is Micah chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds," because this was something that was, you know, had to be planned. It had to be structured. It had to have councils. They had to have meetings. They had to get together, discuss these things, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and how it's going to be executed. You know, they devise all this. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. So they're going to do what they do. It's in their power. They can do it. They thought it up. They can carry it out. And they covet fields and take them by violence. Now, violence, Esau Edom's his blessing is the sword. But those words, these are violent words. Keeping somebody in debt, in heavy debts, that's violence. You know, things like this, these are violence. And houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, and his house, even a man and his heritage. So this is all a oppression. This is all a plans drawn up to oppress the people, to oppress the whole world. Because the Africa that's a very small portion, but it said there's 191 countries that have to go to the IMF. In other words, all the countries of the world, you know, looking for help, but really it's a snare. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. They draw these plans up, and these are just to oppress you. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, the different philosophies, doctrine, here, you know, through his monetary system, got you drunk. Because hey, the dollar isn't even backed by anything. So your debt, you're getting imaginary things like them helping you out, them sending you money. The currency is not real, but the debt is. The things that you have to repay is real. So yeah, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. So he's very proud, and they came out there during colonization, split up the countries, made their own boundaries. You know, they had their own place in Basra. And they went out and took over the entire world, changed everything. Says he's a proud man, the pride of Esau, American pride, global arrogance. He neither keepeth at home, he's always in somebody else's business, who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as deaf. So he is as deaf and cannot be satisfied. This devil going around destroying, stealing, and cannot be satisfied. He cannot be stopped. It don't matter how much you got. You got the whole world now, and he still won't stop. It's to the point to where he's going to cause the whole world, you know, to the rich and poor, free and bond, to take a mark in their hands or in their foreheads. And the only ones that aren't going to be down with that aren't going to take it, are the elect. And cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And how is he doing that? Through his monetary system, through things like the IMF, through destroying countries. Verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. So you're increasing all the things that you got in through these through the loans, through charging usury. That's all through theft. Like I said, they said they were spending more money on the debts than their own education, than their own health. That's theft. And thick clay, here it says, woe to him, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And that thick clay is here, is it H5671, Ibatyat, which means it says something pledged, pawned goods. It says thick clay. And weight of pledges, heavy debts. So through heavy debts, you've done this. Heavy debts, a very heavy debts, to where people can't get out of it. This is how you've got your riches. This is Job chapter 20 and verse 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. So when he's at his peak, when he's at his highest point, he's going to be in a tough place, a hard place to be in. You know, the whole world hates you. You know, they're setting up different snares and plots against you. Your country is falling apart. So much so where that you have contingency plans where you're going to set up a continuity of government. You're planning on going into bunkers. You're planning on hiding in different places because you know this place is going down. But you want to rule forever. But it's not going to happen. It says, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And that word for wicked here is Imal H6001. And it says, the toiling, a laborer. It says figuratively sorrowful, that laboreth, that is a misery. It says a workman. So those that are suffering, working for you, toiling for you, you know, all these countries that have nukes, everything, they're going to turn against you because they've been suffering under you. You've been ripping them off. When he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and it shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So those nuclear missiles, the thermonuclear missiles, these are going to destroy you. And then after this, all you elites that are hiding in the bunkers that think you got away, starting with the 144,000, they're going to drag you out of them bunkers with chains on you. Chains and fetters. You're going into slavery. This is Sirach chapter 10 and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So because you've done this, all the things that you've done, your kingdom is being translated. And the saints are going to take the kingdom. The saints being the Israelites are going to take the kingdom. And the earth is going to be a prosperous. Matter of fact, let me jump up. Sirach chapter 10 and verse 4. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. And that's going to be the earth ruled under Yahushua. So the earth, it's going to be prosperous again. It's not going to be any more ruled over by the wicked in the coming time. So Lord willing, this has been edifying. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Shalom.